The Secrets of Star Wars is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit GiveStarQuest.com.
Hi, this is Vanessa Marshall. I play Harrison Dula on Star Wars Rebels, and you're listening to the Secrets of Star Wars podcast. May the Force be with you always.
Hello there.
It's a power that Jedi have that lets them control people and make things float.
Impressive. Every word in that sentence was wrong.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
It's against my programming to impersonate a deity.
That's not how the Force works.
Force is with me, and I am with the Force, and I fear nothing.
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.
You're listening to The Secrets of Star Wars, where we talk about everything connected to the galaxy far, far away. From movies to books, TV shows, and more, we're looking at the deeper themes and meanings found in the Star Wars universe. And today we are discussing the 8th episode of Maul's Shadow Lord, The Creeping Fear. I'm your host, Jeff Haecker, and joining me tonight on the panel is Kathryn Laffrey. Hey, Kathryn.
Hey, Jeff.
All right, so I'll give our recap, and then we will discuss. So, in this episode, Maul, picking up from the last one, Maul brings the roof down and escapes from the Inquisitors. Rook, Spybot, Scorn, and the remaining Mauldalorians, along with Vario, journey out of the city. Maul wakes up in a pile of rubble and sees a vision of his younger self reflected in the water. He struggles along as his damaged cyborg legs slows him down, while Lieutenant Blake puts Riley in an interrogation room where the Crow enters. Rena Sewell contacts Lawson, telling him she has a transport off-world, but they have to leave within 2 hours. But Lawson says he has to get Riley. Two Boots learns Chief Klyce was killed and answers Lawson's call. Lawson offers a trade in that he will turn himself in if Two Boots lets Riley go. Docky promises Lawson that he will protect Riley and get him off-world, and Two Boots lets Riley out of the cell. Maul heads down a tunnel, hearing visions and voices. He remembers a younger Savage telling him not to leave Dathomir before Palpatine takes the young Maul away. He remembers his training and torture at the hands of the Sith Lord, his defeat by Kenobi, and the death of his brother. Devon steals a transport and Two Boots stuns stormtroopers and joins the Lawsons in escaping. They hold out the troopers and Devon picks them up in the speeder. Maul sees his younger self, who apologizes to the older Maul and says he won't let him do this to anyone else, as he is trying to make Devon his apprentice and do the same thing to someone else. Mm-hmm. The Jedi and Lawsons go to meet Rena, but the Jedi sense a trap, and the lift controls are overridden because it is a trap. The group escapes, and Rena destroys the ship, giving her life to give them a chance to escape. Maul's group reunites and heads to Nicodemus's office, the crime lord from the first episode, and Crimson Dawn calls Vario, with Dryden Voss requesting an audience.
Dun, dun, dun.
All right, so what were your impressions of this episode?
Well, it got really dark really fast. And it was incredible to see the depth they took Maul to, literally and figuratively. And then this didn't have as the same action we just saw in the previous episode, but there was a little more depth to everything else that was happening. So too much action in this one would have been overwhelming.
Yeah, it was definitely because this episode would have been with the last one when it dropped, and so it was definitely kind of a little bit of a slowdown right before the finale arc of the next two would drop. So yeah, this was a great episode. It's funny because if you had told me before this show and before The Mandalorian and Grogu dropped that I would have sympathy for Maul and sympathy for a Hutt, I would have told you you're wrong. But between both things, with Mandalorian and Grogu, with Rhoda the Hutt, and now Maul in this episode, seeing his younger self, his really his innocence, his childhood, it really you have sympathy for what he went to and what he was kind of turned into, because you never know who he would have been if he hadn't been picked by Sidious to be trained and tortured into becoming an apprentice. So
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it was a great episode. Really good. Yeah, like you said, not as much action, a little bit of, shooting at the end and car chase, but really kind of more
great
setting
car
up.
chase.
Yeah. But yeah, overall very good. And one thing, just, I'm sure we're going to point this out too, but the close-ups of Maul's face in this episode, I think they looked painted to me. Like it looked so detailed and so like it was much more detailed, I think, than we've seen in the show so far. And I think it was the right episode to do that, because you're going kind of really into the depths of his soul in this. But what did you think of the art direction in that?
Oh, the art in this. I mean, to do what they did. I mean, first of all, you start off with watching his escape, which was insane. His little spinning dive. Never seen anyone do that. So that was totally just out there. And then to have it, then the next like really good scene you get, you're looking at his face. Like you said, it's filling the whole screen. And all the details in his face was just incredible. Every little movement. I bet they spent months and months just on this one scene.
Yeah.
Although it's interesting, I was looking at IMDb and a couple other places, and everybody was calling out the mistake that happened in the graphics. And it's when he's looking at his reflection and he turns his head. Well, when you turn your head, your reflection should turn the same direction you are. And his reflection actually turned the opposite direction. So as if instead of being a pure reflection, it was a rotation of, like if you would have rotated the character. I'm like thinking of my graphic design work and stuff like that. Just how I would have done it is, instead of having to draw him twice, you could just mirror image him, which would have been what every designer would have thought to do. Instead, it looked like they did a rotation of him. So that's why I'm thinking it's not a mistake.
Yeah.
There's no way at that level of artistry and all the detail that they just put into it that someone would make the mistake of doing a rotation duplicate of the character instead of a mirror image. So I feel like what they're going for in that is the subtle turning away from himself. Because we get later on the line, I hate you. So you're getting like a visual of him turning away from himself. Yeah,
see, I didn't even notice the rotation away from, the opposite reflection, but I'll have to rewatch now that you pointed that out. But that's interesting. And yeah, I think you're right. There's no way that was a mistake. Like, I think it's very intentional that they would have had him turn away. I mean, because he's throughout his whole character journey that we know of, at least more in the Clone Wars and this and Rebels, he's definitely struggled with himself. And this is the most introspective we've ever seen him, because we're actually focusing on his past, which we've never seen before. So we got kind of some brand new clips and images of his kind of story. Because I think I think it was in the Plagueis novel, which I know isn't canon, but in the Plagueis novel, I believe he was given as an infant to Sidious from the Night Sisters or whatever. But this, he's chosen as a young man, or as a young boy even. It seemed like Savage's was bigger, and meaning he's probably older. So it's curious why they chose the younger one. And maybe maybe it's just Sidious wanted somebody he could more kind of mold to his own image.
He was the right color. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true too.
Red, yellow. I think they're going a little more red,
Yeah.
But oh my goodness, they actually made him cute when he was this little, almost 8-year-old self. I was like, I never thought of any of the species as being cute. but somehow they managed it. So.
and because we see Savage kind of telling him, "Don't go, brother," and which is sad because if we think back to the Clone Wars episodes where we saw how the Night Brothers are, it's a matriarchal society, and the Night Brothers are kind of subservient to the Night Sisters, and and that's kind of similar to how the Legends stories of the Night Sisters were, even though they were human in the Dothamirians, they were human in those versus their Zabraks in this, but they're kind of subservient to the sisters, and so someone shows up wanting an apprentice or wanting to buy a person, they're gonna sell them a person, just like they did with Savage later in the Clone Wars. So
and Mother Talzin even beefed him up to ship him out.
And then we even see his kind of initial training with Sidious of still kind of asking for mercy from Sidious when they're kind of dueling a little bit with lightsabers, and
that was so deep and hard to listen to. It's just to hear a kid begging no, it was just like especially when you know what's going to happen to him. It's just terrible.
And he gets the Force lightning, and you can just imagine that I just imagine that he's having these visions and this reliving of things, and then he says, I'm not going to let him do this again. But he's, like I said in the summary, he's literally trying to recruit an apprentice to train and probably abuse in the Sith ways in order to kind of make Devin into a tool that he can mold to his will, just like Sidious did to him. So it's a it's a repeating
sad
cycle.
Phenomenon that happens with kids that are in an abusive situation, because especially if they're young enough and they don't know anything else, there's like nothing to hold on to. There's nothing to say, he could have easily had the option of, I'm not going to do this, and then given up anything to do with the Force and just be like, no, I'm not going to let myself even get close to what he was to me, a complete rejection of it. And instead he's just living or trying to fix what was used against him. But anytime you try to fix it by living it, you just make it worse and perpetuate the problem. It's kind of sad.
Yeah. And that's something we've seen with the Sith, throughout the Sith, the Sith history that we know of is they're not always taken as young people, but they, end up they end up perpetuating this cycle of violence and even if we count the sequels, like with Kylo Ren, and even though he's not necessarily a Sith, but we still see Palpatine in that, trying to perpetuate that cycle of violence and, influencing a young mind to become kind of a tool of the dark side. So
I guess Ventress was the only one to overcome it.
Yeah.
She struggled with it for a long time and was walking a gray line. But then by the end of Bad Batch and even Tales of the Underworld.
Underworld,
that's what she was in. Yeah, by the end of that, you see that she's, I'm not going dark side anymore.
Yeah, we saw that a little bit too in the Tales with Barriss. Like she kind of walked away from that inquisitorial life too. Although she was maybe less deep in it than Ventress was. And then we did see it with Reva in Kenobi, but we don't know the outcome of her life after that series, since they haven't done anything else with her. So there's a few cases, but
yeah. And it's interesting with Maul because we've seen him so broken physically, half of himself, living like a spider weird thing for a while, and then what do we end up with? He's crawling again with his leg messed up, he's down there crawling again in the depths, in the bowels. It's like, his mind is just broken.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely his damaged leg is kind of a metaphor too for his damaged kind of psyche that he has, and yeah, he relives his life, and even hears Savage's voice as an adult, and relives Savage's death and at Palpatine's hands. So it kind of this scene kind of it's kind of interspersed with other stuff, but this storyline kind of reclarifies his need for vengeance against Palpatine that we see all the way until the end, his end in Rebels, when he's, when we first meet him on Malachor, he's trying to use that Sith temple to, I guess, kind of blow up Coruscant, I think. Yeah, blow up everything basically, and then he's gone after Kenobi in the finale, or in not the finale, but in his last episode where he dies, because he sees Palpatine's plan, and it's a younger, or he sees that Palpatine took, that there's a new hope that Palpatine could twist, and he wants to stop that from happening. Or maybe he wanted to take, a young Luke for himself. We don't know. We don't know what happened to Devin at this point. So maybe she turned good, and he was, I don't know that they explicitly ever said, but I kind of think he might have been trying to get Luke as an apprentice to then go after Palpatine. But
yeah. Oh, Luke took care of Palpatine by himself. He was kind of.
Yeah. So, but yeah, and then
all that big opening. I loved how they went from that to this was sort of the shortest and subtlest music opening this time. But it fit with the title, because the title you have, what is it again? Like
Creeping Fear.
Yeah, Creeping Fear. And the music they opened with was very eerie, staccato violin sounds. And it was like any horror film, you've got to have this violin note that just kind of makes you shiver. And then to end it with Palpatine's cackle was just, what a crazy opening that was.
Yeah. Yeah, and then he kind of makes it through this kind of journey and kind of clarifies his purpose of wanting to take down Palpatine, but he knows he can't do it alone. So, because he still wants Devin to renounce the Jedi and join him. But and kind of similarly, we see Rook Cast and the Mandalorians with her and Spybot and Scorn, the Night Brother who's still alive, kind of going along and trying to find Maul, because they're still kind of, at least Rook and Scorn and the other Mandalorians are loyal to him. Wario's there too, but he just wants to stay alive.
Line. What was it? What did he say? That was so funny. Just the way he was like, no Maul? Well, how tragic. Let's go. Like, okay, let's go.
Yeah. So they all reunite by the end, and and we'll, as we finish the Maul plot line, we'll circle back to the Lawsons and others. But yeah, we get the call from, or Varya gets the call from Crimson Dawn that Dryden Voss wants an audience, and Dryden is of course the villain from the Solo movie, who by the time of that movie, it appears that Maul was in charge of Crimson Dawn. So they're kind of setting up the seeds to kind of push us towards Solo. So, so we'll see how that progresses in the next season.
It's fascinating with Maul because we had him in slightly different scenes as he's going through different flashbacks. So, like, we have that opening puddle scene, and then we have him in a tunnel filled with a dust storm, sand. And right away, I'm like, oh my goodness, they're giving us a foreshadowing of what happens in Rebels. Because he was in a dust storm and just seeking his vengeance. So I thought that was really kind of a neat way to do that. And then, he's just dust, blowing around, doesn't know where he's going to be in that time. But then again, we end up with another puddle scene when he finally, gets the apology from his younger self. And then, makes his decision we're going to, fix this. I'm not going to let him do it to anyone else. And of course, I right away think, well, you're doing it to other people.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, we can kind of now circle back to talk about the Lawsons and their own, rebellion against the Empire. But we see that Two Boots is finally, he learns about Chief Kleiss from the other guy who says, are you like, that's not Imperial protocol. She should be held with it for a trial or whatever he says. And the guy's like, are you kidding? She's dead. Like, she's gone.
Right. And the way they had Two Boots, he's like cuddling onto his coffee cup and just so worried the way he's pacing around. It's neat to see how much extra personality they add to him every single episode.
Yeah. Yeah, because Lawson calls him and, is like, I'll make a deal. Like, when Two Boots finally picks up, Lawson says, I'll make a deal. I'll trade myself if you let Riley go. And of course, Two Boots thinks, oh, Riley's not done anything wrong, so he's going to be okay. But of course, that's not the case, because he's being, and we don't see the scene of him being interrogated by the Inquisitor. So, without spoiling for what's the end of the season, I kind of wonder if there's going to be a factor there. For the future for Riley
but they set that up like classic old school horror where you see him in the dark room and then the guy's walking in and not saying anything and he kind of like overshadows him and you're just left with, oh no. I just was like, oh, poor Riley.
Yeah. Riley is one of the few innocents in the show. And, he's kind of seeing because his mom told him, trust the Empire. You'll be, as long as you do that, you'll be okay. But clearly that's not the case. So, that kind of sets up a potential future issue with his mom down the road.
Yeah.
But yeah, Two Boots decides to pick up Lawson's call and, he opens the cell that Riley's in. And as he runs into stormtroopers and says, oh, I'm taking him for interrogation. And, of course they're like, wait, this wasn't in our list or whatever. And he has to stun them. And at that point, Lawson still thinks he's making a deal and that he's going to trade himself. But, then Two Boots and Riley come busting out and Two Boots says, well, the deal's off, I think is what he says.
It was fun when he's looking for him, walking down the hallway. And then when he opens the door and he uses the Luke Skywalker line, like, I'm here to rescue you. Like, oh, it's classic. And then the subtle detail when he, when he realizes that they've got to walk through all these stormtroopers and you have the droid telling the human act natural. It's no, I am acting natural. You're not. I loved how that played out. And then he took one of the troopers' weapons, just kind of looks at it like it's a piece of junk and throws it away. That was kind of funny.
Yeah. And then, they have their shootout as they're trying to get away, and they send Devin to go, or Docky sends Devin to go steal a speeder from these Cyclops aliens who, they look like they think they're going to kick this little girl's, or kick this girl's, rear end. But of course she defeats them easily and takes the speeder. And then we get a pretty cool, like you said, a pretty cool chase with speeder bikes. And then, the gunships kind of coming into, and we get to, that's where it also kind of got very like cyberpunk in this, like the whole show has been pretty cyberpunk, but that's really where it got really cyberpunk of chasing through the tunnels and stuff like that. I thought was really cool.
Especially with the music that was playing in the speeder that she picked up.
Yeah.
It was crazy. And then they did a really great sound editing when she jumps off of one road level down to the next, and they cut all sound until they land. And so it makes you just like inhale and hold your breath for a second to see how it's going to land.
Yeah. Yeah, and what does Docky say? He says, part of stealth is going undetected or something like that. Because, but of course, they're in the middle of a shootout, so I don't think there was really any stealth getting away. Like they just have to get away as fast as you can. But they managed to, after taking out a few speeders and a gunship, they managed to get away. And Lawson calls Rena Sewell and.
And taking out the speeders and the gunships, I love how close Devin and Docky are as far as fighting and knowing when to execute. Because she just looks at him, he nods, and he's just gonna be the coolest Jedi master around. And he just grabs the speeders and throws them at the gunship. So I love how it's just a simple nod, just a look and a nod. All right, let's go to work.
Yeah, they definitely have that. I mean, I think that's what most Jedi masters and their Padawans develop, that kind of shorthand, especially having fought in the Clone Wars and probably had to do crazy moves and things like that to make it through. But yeah, then they're going to meet Rena Sewell, who in the. I can't remember when. I think they're going and they get on the elevator and it's going down, and the Jedi start to sense a trap, and they're able to. Then they call Rena Sewell, who gives the code word that it's I forget what the planet was, but reminds them of tells Lawson.
The
one
they always toast to. Lauren.
Yeah, something Catalan, maybe something like that. Catalor, but yeah, and that's Lawson's clue that it's a trap. And then the camera pans out and you see it's good old Lieutenant Blake standing by with with the squad of troopers, and they're just waiting for them in the elevator. It's coming down to meet where Rena was, but they managed to cut their way out the top and escape.
I liked how early Devin picked up that something was wrong, because it was when she told Riley about fear is natural. We just don't let it control you. And then as soon as they turn to follow Docky and Lawson, she hesitates. She makes a couple faces what's going on, and then a couple more steps. Before they even step into the elevator, she's hesitating. And then when she's in it, that's when you really see her concentrating, no. I just need her to go, it's a trap.
Yeah.
Admiral Akbar said.
Yeah. But they get down there and, they escape, and then, Rena, I thought it was interesting that her blaster was able to hit the engines and blow the ship up, but
she's quite the fighter too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was that her blast? No, that was a trooper's blast.
Oh, she grabbed the troopers. Okay. Yeah. But even still, you don't normally see the handheld weapons be able to, do that much damage, but yeah, but
maybe she had it rigged
gone.
Just in case.
Yeah, that's true. She might have. Yeah.
But a lot of great details in the escape from the police station and heading to go see Rena was outside the police station. They're hiding by pillars. And in the corners, there's just the classic city trash debris. Any big city I've been in, there's always stuff piled up in corners. And they had that all around the place. I think some of it was to show that the Empire's trashing the place, because it wasn't that bad early on. And then the blaster and laser scoring, again, super detailed with watching it hit, flare, and cool, and then the black mark being left, or little bits of, glowing embers tumbling away. So just incredible detail in this entire show.
Yeah. Yeah, but Rena Sewell is presumably dead, and along with your favorite Lieutenant Blake, so he got his his comeuppance
poor
there.
Blake. Hey, if you have that much attitude, you're going to go in a big way.
But yeah, now the Lawsons are in, Devin and Docky and Two Boots are on the run. So, and then we come back to end with Maul's crew going into the office of Nicodemus, and that's where Varyo gets the call from Dryden Voss. So we'll see the.
And I was surprised at how quickly they made that connection. I wasn't expecting it until maybe the next season.
Yeah, I tend to think there is going to be a pretty significant time jump, because I think, I still kind of think there's going to be a 3-season plan for this show, like the second season being where they kind of jumps you to where the time frame of Solo is, and then, maybe even seeing that scene in Solo where he tells, Kira, like, to come to him, like we see it from Maul's perspective or something. And then the final season, I think it's going to still end where when he gets, abandoned on Malachor. And I still think it's going to be Devin who does that. But, whether she's good or bad at that point,
Yeah. I know I want to watch that episode again to make sure she's not one of the, burnt out bodies down under there.
Yeah. But yeah, so Crimson Dawn's coming to be their ticket off world, and like we said, that kind of sets up the future state of Maul and Crimson Dawn, and so that's where this one ends. Yeah, not as long. I know we haven't talked as long, but yeah, it was mostly kind of an introspective episode about Maul.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
And then, of course, the action scene. So,
yeah, it's kind of that. What is it? The deep breath before the plunge. Wait, that's something else.
Right. The calm before the storm.
Yep.
There's big storms a coming.
Oh yeah.
So, all right. Well, any final thoughts on this episode?
No, I think we hit it all.
Okay. Yeah, nothing else for me. Another great episode. And I haven't rewatched the last two yet since seeing them the first time around. So I'm excited to get to those and talk about those. So.
Oh yeah.
But I think that will be it for this episode of The Secrets of Star Wars. We'd like to take a moment to thank all of our patrons who make this show possible, including Jan C, Brent B, Rebecca L, Attila H, and Michael C. Their generous donations help us to create The Secrets of Star Wars and all the shows here at StarQuest, and you can join them at givestarquest.com. And be sure to follow The Secrets of Star Wars on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, your favorite podcast app, or on the StarQuest YouTube channel. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, on X where we are at SQPN, or on Instagram where we are at StarQuest Network. And be sure to get your official Secrets of Star Wars gear at sqpn.com/merch. And now we'd love to hear from you, our listeners. What did you think of this episode of Maul Shadow Lord? You can let us know by sending us an email at starwars@sqpn.com, on our social media pages, or by leaving a comment on our channel on the StarQuest Discord server, which you can find at sqpn.com/discord. So join us next time for our discussion of Episode 9 of Maul Shadow Lord. Until then, thank you, Kathryn Laffrey, for joining me and sharing the secrets of Star Wars.
Thank you, Jeff.
And once again, I'm Jeff Haecker. Thank you for listening to The Secrets of Star Wars on StarQuest.
Here's another show on the StarQuest Network you're sure to enjoy. The Secrets of Movies. Find it wherever fine podcasts are found, or at sqpn.com/secrets.